Beneath the surface of one of the most iconic cities on Earth is one of the world's largest subways. New York City's subway system has a total of 850 miles of track, thousands of vehicles, and over 1 billion riders every year. So, given all that, it's no surprise that several subway stations didn't catch on, leaving behind doors to buildings that were never used or whole entire stations that are now simply forgotten. So stay tuned to find out what remains, as today we discover the history of New York City's forgotten subway entrances. I'm your host Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. Let's start with a brief history of the New York subway system. The first Underground Railroad in New York was planned in 1869 and opened in 1870, though it was never expanded from its small origins and closed down in favor of surface transit. However, as New York City's population exploded due to massive immigration, traffic worsened, congesting streets, and hence public transit was an immediate necessity. And so it was. The construction of a much larger subway system was approved in 1894, and many believe that this decision was rapidly pushed forward in response to intense blizzards, which demonstrated how functional an underground transit system would be. Opening on October the 27th, 1904, and leased to the Interborough Rapid Transit Company, the system charged passengers 5 cents to ride the trains. It immediately proved a better option than New York's elevated rail lines, which to a certain extent catered to New York's more wealthy residents. The subway was amazing. It offered an affordable and versatile alternative, with their ill-fated City Hall station advertising that it could go from City Hall to Harlem in just 15 minutes. And that particular station was simply awe-inspiring, meant to be a centerpiece of the New York system with vaulted ceilings, a curved platform, and impressive architecture. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. We'll get back to this in just a moment. From the year it opened, the New York City subway expanded, growing to 23.5 miles by 1908 in just 2 short years. Stores started opening in subway stations as more people integrated it into their transit routine. Rail lines were split between several smaller companies for a few decades. That was until 1932, when the city opened the independent subway system, which eventually bought back all the systems leased out to private companies and merged them into one entity. It continued expanding larger and larger, gradually becoming one of the largest systems in the world, and remains a crucial part of the city to the modern day. So now that we've got the history established, let's explore the stations and entrances that have long been forgotten. Our first location is the Astor Place subway station, one of the original 28 subway stations opened in New York City. In this station, one will see a brick wall whose pattern does not match its surroundings, being white brick from floor to arch, and atop the brick wall is a sign labeled Clinton Hall. And indeed, this looks out of place for a reason. You see, this was initially meant to be a path to the Mercantile Library of New York, also known as Clinton Hall. Well, the pathway from Astor Place Station to the library is closed off. The building is still present. So what happened here? Initially located in the Astor Place Opera House at the triangle of Astor Place on East 8th Street and Lafayette Street, the Mercantile Library tore down the Opera House in 1890 to construct a new 11-story building for its more than 120,000 volumes. And since it had prolific members such as Ralph Waldo Emerson and Mark Twain, a private subway entrance was constructed in the Astor Place subway station in 1904 to reflect the library's importance. However, when the Mercantile Library was relocated in 1932, the entrance became redundant, especially after the building was converted to condominiums. As a result, the city just bricked up the entrance from the subway at some point in the 1940s. At 1 Center Street, east of Chambers Street in the Civic Center neighborhood of Manhattan, there's a large office building named for New York City's first African-American mayor, the David N. Dinkins Municipal Building. Also known as the Manhattan Municipal Building, it was initially intended to be the single location where all governmental functions operated after New York outgrew its original City Hall. With about 1 million square feet of office space, it remains one of the most significant office buildings in the world. It features the 25-foot-tall civic frame statue, a gilded copper sculpture depicting a figure standing atop a globe holding the New York City coat of arms, a branch of leaves and a mural crown to celebrate the consolidation of the 5 boroughs. But another and more overlooked feature of this building is its now abandoned subway exit. This is found behind the Main Street entrance to the now abandoned Chambers Street subway station. Opened in 1913 as a part of the Brooklyn Rapid Transit System, the Chambers Street station served as a terminal for trains from Williamsburg to Manhattan bridges. However, when the 2 platforms closed in the wake of the Nassau Street subway, the J and Z lines opened. Before that, a staircase from the Chambers Street station to the street level was removed when the new subway lines opened. Now, all that remains is a gate and a standpipe on the street. Of New York's original 28 subway stations, it's no wonder that one of them is in Times Square. The Times Square subway station, which opened in 1904 along with the Interborough Rapid Transit, is located in a neighborhood formerly known as Longacre Square. Previously having a reputation as a hub of adult entertainment, the area transformed with the arrival of the subway, the relocated New York Times headquarters, and most importantly, Broadway. To capitalize on the growth of Times Square, a hotel was also constructed on the southeast corner of 42nd Street and Broadway. The Knickerbocker Hotel, opening in 1906, was nicknamed the 42nd Street Club and became a premier site for social gatherings. It was so prevalent that at the end of Track 1, near the shuttle to Grand Central Terminal, there was a door that once led to the hotel's lowest level with the bar and restaurant. The hallway between the platform and the building was once decorated with colorful flags and comfortable seating, though today it's closed from the public and only used for storage. The decaying decorative plasterwork and ornate stenciling are the only remnants of its former splendor. Despite the hotel's history, which closed in 1920 to operate as office space but reopened in its original state in 2015, these mysterious, forgotten tunnels remain closed. At 481 8th Avenue, in Manhattan's Hell Kitchen neighborhood, there's a very fascinating building called the New Yorker Hotel. Opening in 1930, it was once among the heights of luxury that the city had to offer. And while it still operates, the lower levels are now rented out as office space and dormitories. Like the other luxury hotels of its time, the New Yorker Hotel had a link to the subway, but in this case, it was directly to Penn Station. With the opening of the 8th Avenue subway, now known as the ACE lines, the hotel wished to spring on this opportunity. This came as an elevator where an attendant would take riders' bags and escort them through the brass doors directly to the trains. The tunnel was a huge bragging point for the hotel. In fact, it was featured prominently in the hotel's marketing throughout the 1950s, but finally closed down in the 1960s. Afterwards, the entrance to the tunnel was bricked in, and these days it's only accessible from within the hotel, and the Art Deco tiled rooms are now just used for storage. Our next location is not merely an entrance, but an entire station linked to the rest of the subway. Located at Skimmerhorn Street and Boren Place in Brooklyn, the Court Street station was once connected to the I&D Fulton Street line. Operating from 1936 to 1946, it is probably one of the most accessible abandoned stations since it's now used for a new purpose. Though between the abandonment and its repurposing, it languished. Used as filming grounds for several movies and testing grounds for cleaning products, things changed in 1976 after 30 years of disuse. The New York Transit Museum moved into the old spot, housing a rotating section of 20 subway and elevated rail cars dating back to 1907. Originally founded as a part of the United States' 200th anniversary, it was intended to be a temporary exhibit but was made permanent due to popular demand. Just to be clear, the New Yorker Hotel wasn't the only location with its own designated entrances. In fact, one of the longest passages was the Gimbel's Passageway, stretching 800 feet under 33rd Street. It connected Penn Station's 7th Avenue subway lines to the 6th Avenue lines accessible at the Herald Square station under Manhattan Mall. However, given its length, it wasn't easy to maintain safety and cleanliness within it, so it was closed in the 1980s. Entry to the Gimbel's Passageway is now blocked off in Penn Station, though it hasn't exactly lied dormant in its abandonment. You see, a few improvement plans for Penn Station involve the Gimbel's passageway, including widening and reopening it. Regardless of the plans, the passageway remains off limits right now. But according to urban explorers, the remnants of the passageway are decrepit. Debris-littered surfaces are used for storage, with aging brickwork and paint peeling from the heights of the walls. In other words, this is a dim and dingy part of New York City, only illuminated by a single string of lights across the property. In Penn Station is the Hilton Passageway, connecting 1, 2, and 3 trains in Penn Station to the Hotel Pennsylvania. This hotel was once the largest in the world around its opening in 1919, but permanently closed down in 2022 and was demolished altogether in 2023. Today, it's a corridor that connects the Long Island Railroad and New Jersey Transit to the 1, 2, and 3 trains. Another entrance in Penn Station is the Guastavino Tunnel, though this one is a bit special. In 2019, construction through the station temporarily made part of the original 1910 structure visible. The part unveiled was a passageway from the Long Island Railroad concourse to the 1, 2, and 3 trains. Notable about this section are the Guastavino tiled arches, which were very prominent in the original station and are the last examples of such tile work in the whole place. Amtrak confirmed it to be a part of the former 32nd Street connection from downtown 7th Avenue subway into Penn Station on the B level. Blocked off since the 1980s and usually entirely dark, when it was unveiled again during construction, the MTA set lights inside it so that it could be assessed throughout the project. However, unfortunately, as of 2021, the tunnel is once again completely blocked off and forgotten. We've repeatedly mentioned the abandoned New York City Hall station throughout this video, but now it's time to reveal that station's mysterious past. When the 5 boroughs of New York merged into the City of New York, the City Hall building became too small for the new bureaucratic weight. As a result, most offices outside of the mayor's office and the New York City Council are located within the previously mentioned municipal building. However, directly under City Hall Park is the old City Hall Station, the original southern terminal of the New York City subway. Opened in 1904, this was the centerpiece of the subway system, featuring vaulted ceilings, a curved platform, a mezzanine, and chandeliers, among other things. However, passenger service was discontinued in 1945 since it could no longer handle the large trains of the modern era. It's still used by some trains as a turning loop, so it's not entirely abandoned, but it's closed to passenger service altogether. Our final entrance for today links into the old City Hall station and can be found in the basement of the Woolworth building, a residential early skyscraper and the tallest building in the world from 1913 to 1930. In the building's bike room, 2 large wooden doors bar the way to a corridor described as a passageway under Broadway to the BMT and IRT trains. Like many of the entrances we've discussed today, this was a luxury for people of great wealth and sometimes fame. The private subway entrance was one of the many amenities the building offered, though it should be pointed out that, unlike all other entrances we've discussed today, it was completely filled in when closed. However, one can still supposedly see the remnants of this entrance, blocked with metal bars. The New York City subway is essential to the city's infrastructure, replacing several older types of mass transit and in large outcompeting the elevated rail, and hence it makes sense that there was a time when several buildings would want to tap into this city utility directly. However, there was an unforeseen problem here. You see, since these types of VIP access points mainly focused on serving the wealthy and famous, the automobile would win out in the end, as these type of passengers didn't particularly care to ride to work with the working class. So these types of closures were rather inevitable. Regardless, it's fascinating how New York's subway system could have several more tunnels within its walls, just waiting to be uncovered within the next renovation. And we'll leave it there for today, but if you have an episode idea for our series, Tales of Urban Decay, or perhaps you'd like to appear as a guest to share an oral history on our channel, It's History on Air, be sure to send your concepts to this address on screen. There's also a link in the description. It's helpful if you include a small photo and a description of your topic. Otherwise, I thank you all very much for watching, subscribing, joining, and supporting the channel. Until next time, this is Ryan Socash, signing off.